Hi, everybody, and welcome to SA Rugby Magazine. I am Kevin Ferguson, the MoneyMan, and I've got Gavin Rich. We got some rich pickings. Last weekend, we nailed all four.
We did.
Bang, 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 bang. It's like, I don't know how many people took our advice. You should take it. We've got Japan versus... we've got South Africa versus France. And we've got a couple of other games that may have a little interest. New Zealand versus Scotland. We'll chat a little bit about that. But let's get straight into France. The emotional French.
Well, that is exactly what they've been. I mean, if you keep reading stuff, Paul Willems is talking about dagger to the heart. That was the defeat in 2023. And I can understand that. They were hosting the World Cup.
Yeah.
Which they shouldn't have been, because South Africa should have got that World Cup.
Yeah.
So they were hosting the World Cup. They expected to win on their home territory. This was going to be the moment when they broke their duck. And there was a lot of things that happened in the game that France were unhappy about. And I mean, I read that their centre, Dante, is still complaining about Pieter-Steph du Toit, who was sent off for a dangerous tackle against him in 2022. And he believes he tried to headbutt him in that game in 2023 in that World Cup quarterfinal. But I just think that it
was an amazing game.
It was an amazing game, and it was full of incident. And the French
28.
haven't forgotten it. So there's just there's too much emotion there. I mean, I think a lot of people who are betting against South Africa just think that the French are too determined. But I think that could work against France. I think that France being so fired up for a game could actually bring out the worst in the Latin temperament. It could actually be one of those games where there's a lot of indiscipline, and maybe the Springboks will profit from that. But just listening to some of the things that are being said, it's you'd think that the Springboks had robbed them of that win. I mean, forget about the match officials. It was as if the Springboks came in the dead of night and put hoodies over them and sort of beat them up or something. And stole off with all their goods. It's just like there's almost too much temperature to this game going in, and I'd be a little bit concerned if I was a French supporter that there might be too much.
Yeah, it's not the same teams they're going to be playing 2 years on.
Yeah.
South Africa have only got Oxenche out, really.
Yeah.
The French have 7 players out. They've got 5 like-for-like replacements, so they're missing Dupont and Ramos. But, it's like you say, the emotionality. My problem, I got a few problems why I like South Africa in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Rassi's heading in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I think we've now won 5 on the bounce.
Yeah.
We're battle-hardened, meaning that the French haven't played with that team since March in their Six Nations campaign. So how much does battle-hardened come into it? Then you got the French temperament. You've got the French emotions, and I see a Springbok win here. I don't see it by a lot, but I see a decent Springbok win.
Well, when you talk about battle-hardened, I think that the game last week in Chicago, to me, was an example of a battle-hardened team coming through in the second half. That was the All Blacks against Ireland. We said before the game, one of the reasons that we tipped an All Black win in that game was that they would be battle-hardened and that the Irish hadn't played together since the Six Nations back in March. And it's the same situation now with France. They were the one team that didn't play last weekend.
Yeah.
So they're going to be having to find each other again. I think what might help them a little bit, depending on who those like-for-like replacements are for those 7 players are out, what might help them was the fact that they did go under strength to New Zealand in July. So some of those guys who played for the French then might come into the match day 23. So that could help them. And France do have very good depth. I mean, I think if we go back a couple of weeks when the Springboks were playing the All Blacks and we were being all triumphalistic and talking about how good the Springboks were, I think we both did say that the one team in the world, or the one nation in the world that can match South Africa's depth is France. So now the two teams are playing each other, and it's, you said it's going to be close, and the last couple of games have been incredibly close. 4 points in 2022. It was only 1 point in this last game in 2023. And I think if you go back before that, 2018, Russie's team, Russie's first game against France, Bongi and Benombi scored a try after the hooter to win the game.
I remember that.
And even before that, in 2017, when Alistair Coetzee was coaching the Springboks, and that was a whole different era. The Springboks won there too, and it was a 1-point margin. If you look at the record between the two teams, and I'm one of those people who does believe that history means something. A lot of people say history is irrelevant, but I think that history is sometimes relevant. If we go back to 2010, it was the FIFA World Cup in Cape Town. I remember going to watch Uruguay. I don't know who they played, the soccer, and the night before, and then the next day it was South Africa against France at the old Newland Stadium. And it was a very weakened French team, but the Boks won 42-17, I think, that day, or 42-7. But it was a very one-sided game, and it's been pretty much South Africa since then. The only time that they've lost, in fact, to France is in 2022 in Marseille. Admittedly, Fabien Galtier's come in as a coach, and it's a whole new wave of success in France. They won a couple of junior world championships, and their under-21s have been really good. And I think that the strength of the French club game has improved. Maybe fewer overseas players there than there used to be. So France are a different kettle of fish than they were before. But South Africa do have the wood over. I think the overall record between the two teams, they've played 46 times. South Africa have won 28 of them, and France have only won 12. Admittedly, a lot of those games would have been in South Africa, but just if you look at history as well, it does favour the Boks. They've only won 12 times against South Africa in a lot of games, and that says something. So it's a big moment whenever France beats South Africa. So that's on South Africa's side. I mean, as I say, there is a reason why there's history.
So what's the keys for South Africa to win this game?
Well, the key is actually that we have improved, that South Africa have improved in a number of areas since 2023. Obviously, Tony Brown's come in. Mm-hmm. We've got Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu at fly half now. Mani Lebok started that game in 2023, and I still think he was the reason that the Boks won that game. I know Andre Pollard came on in the second half and he kicked the clutch kicks. But if you remember, the French were all over the Boks in the first half of that game. But every time they scored, South Africa scored a try of their own. Yeah. And invariably it was the Springbok X Factor driven by Mani that got the try. So that little bit of X Factor kept us in the game in the first half in 2023. And then in the second half, remember, the French forward started to tire and the Springboks started to take control. Pollard came on. He kicked the crucial kicks to win the game. So what will it take for us to win the game is that maybe there's a point, because the thing about this game is that if you listen to the Springboks talk, they talk about the French pack like opposing teams talk about the Springbok pack. Yeah. This is the one time when we can't completely rely on Springbok forward dominance. Although they've got, the last time I looked, they had several tight ends that were out, that's being France. But of course, South Africa are missing Oxenshare. Yeah. And that's a big miss, particularly because the man who would have replaced him, in my opinion, would have been Jan-Hendrik Wessels. I think Jan-Hendrik Wessels is a fantastic player. We know why he's out. We spoke about it last week. I think I used the word ridiculous. I'll use the word again. But he's not there, so we can't complain about it. It is good that Gerard Steenekamp is back. I'd be very concerned if we had to go lower than that in looking for a loose head replacement, because there are little guys out. But this could be the game where South Africa need to rely on the evolution. When I say the evolution, there's a reason why South Africa started to evolve their game and why they could no longer just rely on forward power. And that is because they realized that on days when their forward power is matched, they're a little bit lost. And so they've got that now. They've got in Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, and I'm hoping that he plays, because you never know with Rassie. But in Sasha Feinberg,
Rassie hasn't announced his team yet.
He hasn't. It's going to happen tomorrow. So they've got a Ferrari. I've seen him described as a Ferrari, and he is a Ferrari. He's just an excellent rugby player. So we've got a guy, if he's not the best fly half in the world at this moment, he's heading in that direction. So South Africa have a point of difference.
Let's call him what he is, the best fly half in the world.
Well, he certainly has got the potential to be. I can't think of another fly half who is better than him. And Eddie Jones said it last week after the Japan game.
Well, if Eddie said it, it must be true.
No, Eddie said it. He said this guy's going to change the Springbok game. He's going to make the Springboks that much harder to beat. And I agree with him. So changes since 2023. There've been a lot of them on the Springbok side, not so much on the French side. If you look at it, the French have won. They did win the Six Nations this year, of course. So they came right. But remember, they took a while to recover from that World Cup. I mean, their Six Nations last year, we forget they've played in 2 Six Nations since the World Cup. Last year was horrible for them. So they've recovered this year, and they won the Six Nations. If I remember, they beat the All Blacks in the November Test last year.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, let's put the Six Nations where it is. I've heard people that play in the Six Nations tournament talk about how we'd never understand the physicality of playing in the Six Nations. Let's put it into context. You play against Wales, Italy, Scotland, a poor England team, and a waning Ireland team.
Yeah.
So how much credibility do you give to the French team last year overcoming the odds and winning the Six Nations? I don't put it up there as like the greatest accomplishments in the world.
I'd agree with you, particularly in your point that you don't have 4 tough games.
I mean, who is it that's talking about? One of the pundits overseas talking about why are Wales playing South Africa? We're going to fuck them up royally, and they're going to take a knock in confidence, and they could be in for a 30, 40, 50 point a game.
Well, particularly because Wales in that day are going to be very under strength because it's played outside the international window. So they're going to be fielding a young team. South Africa will also be fielding a young team. I mean, sometimes I think that international rugby is in demand a bit. It's a little bit like watching ODI cricket. You
could say the same thing for club championships or for the EOC or whatever.
URC.
URC.
No, absolutely. It's always good to see the teams when they're at full strength, and boasting rights come when teams are at full strength. But just on what you say about the Six Nations, the one point I would disagree on is, but although it was valid last year, it was valid in the most recent. I think England are building. I really do think England are starting to grow. So, but in the last Six Nations, they were just starting out on that growth. They've now won, is it 8 or 9 games in a row? And England, so I think this next Six Nations season is going to be very competitive, because I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see England possibly usurp Wales.
Come on,
that wouldn't be difficult. Sorry, possibly usurp Ireland. Ireland okay. To me look a little bit. To me, Ireland are looking a little bit clunky at the moment. Although in the early parts of last week's game, when they had a red card, they actually were quite impressive. But then as the game went on, it
was a ridiculous red card.
It was a ridiculous.
I mean, it was the most. You talk about the officiating in rugby. It's like, what in God's name is a guy protecting himself and gets a red card for a high tackle? It's like, come on, man.
Well, Kevin, we spoke last week, or it might have been the week before. We spoke about where's rugby going, and I said, well, maybe it won't happen in my lifetime that people will start that the rugby administration will start to have common sense. It might have been actually several weeks. It could have actually been any week, because there's always incidents. But to me, I mean, you just look at it. We playing a World Cup in America in 2031. You want to sell the game. You want to sell the sport to the American public. They chose a referee who's a little bit like the French referee. Who's a little bit like, I think Nick Mallet actually described him the other day as a Mr. Bean. He was very pedantic. That first half took 52 minutes. And then they came up with, once again, one of those ridiculous red cards that even Bowden Barrett, who was the victim of the tackle, said afterwards, I'm going to help the Irish player Byrne. I'm going to help him get off because I feel for him because it was ridiculous. It was a rugby collision. He took a flat. He took a
forward pass.
Yeah, he took a forward pass. Well, a flat forward pass. But Barrett himself said that I was expecting it to go behind. So he was taken by surprise, and he gets a red card. But not just that. To me, what's confounding isn't just that there was a red card, because it didn't come from the referee. It went to the bunker.
Yes, that is the most confounding thing.
Yeah, that
it actually went up to people who are supposed to be responsible and should make the right decision. And then, I mean, when they said it was a red card, I just shook my head and just went, well. Back to the drawing board.
Well, back to the drawing board for rugby. So you go to America. We're going to play this game. We're going to try and bring in the the American public. Admittedly, the Americans are used to their own gridiron where it's very stop-start anyway. But with the selling point to the American public should really be that this is a fast-paced game and it's not like gridiron at all. Come and watch this game, it's fast. It wasn't, because the referee was just so pedantic. I remember there was a time when he called them back for taking the ball at like 2 millimeters off the mark or something, or at one of the penalties. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, I went to bed on Saturday night fuming, actually, because I just couldn't believe what I'd just seen. I actually think the All Blacks were very good in that last quarter.
It's about a TMO that can't shut up. That wants to be center of attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Calling a possible that should have been a penalty, maybe at best.
Yeah,
maybe,
but maybe not. Maybe not even that.
Exactly.
For what? For rugby is going to kill itself with this. I understand why they need to make the game safer, but for goodness sake, it's a contact sport, and as long as it's a contact sport, you are going to have the odd head collision, and you've got to have common sense. This is the problem, is that to me rugby lacks common sense across the board. 3 international games, because we included the Barbarians game last week as 3 international games in London on the same weekend. Are you surprised that the Japan game at Wembley
had 23,000
people? I mean,
not surprised.
I mean, that was a joke. And in a way, I'm actually almost pleased about that, because obviously South African rugby wanted to make money out of that. That's the whole reason we were playing this game outside of the international window. Well, maybe they'll think twice about playing again in London at that time of the year when there's other internationals on. England were playing at Twickenham. There was that game between the Barbarians and that John Dobson's Barbarians and that New Zealand youth team or whatever, or 15 or whatever it was. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, rugby needs to get some common sense, and at the moment there's a shortage of that.
Yeah, I fully agree, Gav. It's beyond anything. Yeah, smarter people than me are running a game.
The 57 old farts. Remember that Will Carling spoke about? The 57 old farts, at least they had rugby at heart. It wasn't just about commercialism. I don't want those 57 old farts back, but maybe 15 of them to come and sit with the guys who are now running the sport, who only have the dollar at the top of their minds.
You know, rugby's not shooting the lights out commercially, but it's like, which is why it's up for sale.
Yeah.
To the highest bidder. But yeah, it was disappointing to see only 23,000 for Japan, because there's not a lot of Japanese, I believe, in London.
Yeah. And we've got so many expat South Africans there.
They should have invited Afghanistan.
Maybe.
So, to me, South Africa, the keys to winning are simply this: they've got to absorb the pressure for the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. France
are going to come out like a bat from hell. Emotionally charged, the testosterone, all that, and the endorphins are flowing. They'll come out 15 hard minutes. If South Africa can absorb that pressure, kick sensibly, then they should be able to go on, put it through the phases again.
It could actually be the converse. It could be the converse, because South Africa have played together so much recently. I remember watching the Sharks play Ulster a few weeks ago, and I thought the Sharks were going to beat Ulster. And then in the first 20 minutes, I was reminded that this Sharks team hasn't played together since last July or June or whatever it was. In the first 20 minutes, Ulster killed the Sharks because the Sharks hadn't played together. It's just possible that the first 20 minutes, the Boks could be clinical.
Do you see a blowout? Do you see a blowout here or a close game?
I see a close game, but it's not. But I don't rule out the possibility that the Springboks, and I think it's more likely to be the Springboks than France.
Yeah, but definitely to blow them out.
That the Springboks actually get a fast start. That they feast on the fact that the French haven't played in a long time, and get early points. And if the Springboks get early points and go into a lead, I know what happened at Ellis Park. I mean, against Australia, we don't need to mention that again, but that was a freaky game. I don't think that the French will be able to play catch up against the Boks. It is just possible. I think it is possible that the Boks could get a good lead because they've played together. Sasha's a player they haven't played against before. Who knows what Sasha's going to do? I think sometimes his teammates don't know. Look, to me, there's one of the interesting things is Damian Willemse fit. I know that Cheslin Colby did well at fullback last week, but I would still prefer Damien Willemse to be there. He's strong under the high ball. He's just got that, and he's got that kick that he can control the game. So I would rather that happen. So, if we were talking tomorrow and the team had already been selected, I'd have more of an idea what might happen. But and let's see if Damien Willemse does what he did in the World Cup final in the World Cup quarterfinal in 2023. Remember, he called for a mark and South Africa decided to scrum from the mark. But that won't happen now because they're missing. So, what my concern is that without Jan-Hendrik Wessels and without Ox, we maybe don't have quite that same sort of scrumming power that we would otherwise have. But South Africa is still strong enough at forward to compete with. I don't think France will dominate the Springboks, not with the players that they're missing. But there could be a lot more parity in this game than we used to. And that's why I say the point of difference could well be Sasha and could well be the players at the back.
Yeah, it's. I think you're right. The team that has more potential to put a bigger score on is the Boks. France, like you say, haven't played since March. We'll take a little time to find a bit of something, and I like the Boks to win by 5.
Yeah,
what's your call? I'm going to say Boks 28. France 23.
Everybody else, even Stephen Kitsoff was asked in the Times podcast in London, and he gave France the win by 1 point, and then he changed it during the podcast, and he said that it was 4.
Do you listen to rugby punters?
I don't know because Kitsy's. No, I don't normally. I was told about. I read it. I actually read it in the newspaper. I didn't actually listen to it, although I was on it once. The point that I was going to make though is that I don't know whether Kitsy's motivation was not to motivate France. That's always been the Springbok thing. No? Yeah. So he was a recent player, so he might think to himself, "Oh, I'm not going to give France extra motivation."
You don't want to hang anything up in the change room where certain.
Yeah, so we don't. So I don't want to give them anything. But there are people who think
South Africa are favourite, huh?
There are people who think that because France have so much revenge on their mind, that they'll win because they've got more to gain. But the Boks, for goodness sake, also have a lot to gain. They win this game and then they're undisputed kings of the world. They are already, regardless of what happens, in my opinion, on Saturday, because let's not forget that the game's being played in Paris. So, a close win for France over there doesn't necessarily mean that they're the better team, because come and play us at, I was going to say Ellis Park, maybe not Ellis Park anymore, but come and play us somewhere else in South Africa, and it might be a different story. It's unfortunate,
one of those things, Gab, that France do not play us enough.
They don't.
No.
Well, that's what makes this game such a big one. Is because there was a time I wrote a piece this morning. There was a time when I was when I was working for newspapers and they sent people on tour every year.
The good old days.
Yeah,
the Hunter S. Thompson days.
I was in France every second year. 1992, I went through it. 96, 97, 99. It was like I got to know Paris as well as I know my neighborhood.
I had tickets that
and
game.
It doesn't happen anymore.
I wouldn't go to Paris. It's not a safe city. That where the game's played is not very safe.
Yeah, where the stadium is.
It's an absolute horrible walk.
I don't like it. I don't. No. I agree. It's not. Stade de France isn't my favorite stadium in the world. I've been there a lot, but I preferred going to the old Parc des Princes because I'm from that era.
Yeah.
The first 10 years of my rugby writing career, probably we were, in fact, 90s. Yeah. Well, the first 7 or 8 years of my rugby writing career, we used to go to Parc des Princes, and I quite enjoyed Parc des Princes. But yeah, you asked me for who I think's going to win. I'm going for 8.
South Africa by 8.
Yes, I don't think it's going to be as close as that. I think it's going to be by 8. I still want to see the two teams being selected before I'm completely certain, but I would like to see who the Boks. I'd like Willemse to be playing, but I've got a feeling that the Boks are going to win by more than a score. And I'm going on that because of what I saw last week happen between the All Blacks and Ireland. I just think that the battle-hardened team is the favoured one in this instant. The team that's played together, that's synced. And look, you never know with Rusty. He might come up with a team that's got 11 changes, and the guys haven't played together since August. But I don't think he will. I think we'll see Kobus Reinach and Sasha start at halfback. I think Caden Moody will probably come back into the midfield. We'll probably have Cheslin on the right wing with hopefully Ethan Hooker still on the left, because I just think he's so good in that aerial battle, and hopefully Damien Willemse at fullback. So that's a very good backline with a lot of X factor.
Okay. I agree. You say 8. I say 5. Some good advice there, folks. Should be a good one. Any other betting prospects this weekend? I look at all the other stuff, and the only one out there that's worth putting a punt on to me is possibly the New Zealand game. You know,
the New Zealand-Scotland game, because everybody will be favouring New Zealand, and you'll win a lot of money back, I think, if you put it on Scotland. If you look at the last 3 games that those two teams have played, and I've watched all those games, and I've got quite a good memory of each of them. And each of them, Scotland were in positions to win and then blew it. I think it was 8 points the last time, 31-23. That was in 2022.
Correct.
And in that game, it was a case of, I think it was Jack Dempsey, one of the Scottish loose forwards got pinged. He got a yellow card quite late in the game. It was an unfortunate one. And that was when New Zealand took control. Remembering that New Zealand used to be their habit, was to win games late, which they rediscovered last week as well. But so 2022, it was a very close game, and South Africa and Scotland could well have won it. 5 years before that, in 2017, and it's another game I remember very well. Stuart Hogg was over the line on the last move of the game, and if he had dotted that ball down, Scotland would have won. So Scotland are getting closer and closer, and the previous one was also at 8 points. I can't remember which year that was. So the last 3 games have been a margin of no more than 8 points that New Zealand have won. Scotland are coming closer. They used to get thrashed by New Zealand, and Scotland. It's always a very good game to watch because of there's a similarity in the styles. It's almost like Scotland to some extent on New Zealand's mini-me. I mean, because historically they've always been both been good rucking teams and playing off quick ball. So it certainly will be a good game to watch. And if I was a betting man, look, I wouldn't say if I had to bet my house, I'm going to say that Scotland are going to win. But if you want good money back, if you want good money back, then I would go for a Scotland win, because I think that they're due sometime. It hasn't happened for 120 years. They've had 2 draws. I think the last one was in 1983.
Yeah.
There's been 2 draws.
And 2.
Sorry?
0-30 and 2. New Zealand are.
Yeah.
I won't be touching that game, bud. But
you won't be.
I'll be watching it.
Okay.
The game on Sunday, Wales-Argentina. You can get 5-1 on Wales.
Then go for it.
I mean,
because Argentina are unpredictable stuff. I mean, I know that they were brilliant at the end of the Rugby Championship, and they appeared to be improving through the Rugby Championship, and came back right at the end to sort of put a false gloss on the score again in the game against the Boks at Twickenham. But Wales, they're on a new coach now, aren't they? So they're sort of starting out. I mean, that means nothing, because if you haven't got the cattle, as the New Zealanders say, then it doesn't matter who's coaching. And we know the problems that there are. I mean, everybody must be quite distracted by the whole sort of hoo-ha about the regions. And
my only thing, Gab, is when you get 5-1 on Wales at home against Argentina, it's an outright take.
Yeah,
I'd take it for a couple hundred. You know, it's just 5 times your money.
No.
You've got a 20% chance, according to bookies, of winning, and remember that when you put the bet on. But a 5-1 Wales could cause an upset against Argentina.
And it would, historically, it wouldn't be such an. I mean, they've beaten Argentina in the past.
Yeah.
So how good are Argentina? Maybe we need to start judging them on how they deal with games like the one against Wales, which they expected to win, instead of judging them on those days when they raise their game. Look, I mean, I haven't seen the Argentina squad, because there's the other thing about the Argentina is sometimes they end up taking weaker squads on tour. So and also, who are they playing next week? So they might have a bigger team next week, so they play their second string team now. And do they have the same depth as, say, a South Africa or New Zealand that they can do that? But certainly, it's worth the wager. I mean, it's
don't put a lot on. It's like responsible gambling. But I would put a little tickle on that for Wales, especially being Welsh. I like South Africa to win. Put 1,000 on that.
Okay.
And you should be all right. But I mean, if you'd have followed us last week, you'd be 4 bets up right now. You know? four units up.
After last week, yeah.
After last week. So Yeah, we can't pick them all the time, or we just do this, right?
Yeah, that would be my job.
Exactly. So you've heard it from us. We both think the Boks are going to win by 8 to 5 points. Act accordingly. And thanks very much for watching, and give us a like. Yeah? Thanks, guys.